Hello, I'm Shonagh Marshall and I'm the curator of Shoes for Show, the sculptural art of high heels, brought to you by tavaro.co.uk. Being a fashion curator is bringing together a series of objects which tell stories to highlight a theme. With this exhibition, I wanted to look at shoes that could be really appreciated for their beauty and not necessarily their function. So it's really about the aesthetic value and the design that goes into that. If we begin with someone who's very, very famous for being a couture collector of not only clothing but shoes also, is Daphne Guinness. In the show we were lucky enough to have a pair of shoes loaned by Daphne herself, which were made for her by Nina Ricci. They were shown on the catwalk for autumn-winter 2009, but then they were only in black, so Daphne obviously went to the designer Nina Ricci and asked for them to be made specially for her and her size in metallic purple with glitter on the front. I think really if you're looking at shoes as sculptural, the fact that the platform falls to the floor and the heel actually doesn't, it's really pushing the boundaries of how you can get someone ergonomically to walk in a pair of shoes that don't have a heel that actually connects to the platform of the shoe. Going right back, something that's not so contemporary, is the Yanterni shoe from circa 1920. Yanterni was a really, really famous couture shoe designer, and it was the turn of the century. He had a shop on Rue Saint-Honoré in Paris, and he put a sign in his window claiming to be the most expensive footwear designer in the world, or I make the most expensive shoes in the world. And from that, he ended up gathering together the most important, richest, chicest women as his clients or his customers. And he would monitor their gait and their elegance, and only then he would say, okay, you can, I'll design shoes for you. You can be one of my customers. He would take £1,000 down payment, which at that time is obviously a phenomenal amount of money. He would then say, I'll take a form of your foot and I will make you shoes, but I'm not going to let you know when they're ready. I mean, it could take up to 3 years. So it's a really interesting approach to something that's so instant fashion now. To have, you know, the most beautiful women in the world waiting for up to 3 years for his shoes. He'd only use antique fabrics. And if you look at the Yanterni shoe, you can just see how tiny it is. And I think this is almost a comment on looking at how our feet have changed so much in the last 100 years. These were designed by Rupert Sanderson for Verdi's Aida at the Royal Opera House. And in terms of looking at a shoe or high heel as sculptural, the classical Grecian sculptures that are holding up the sole of this shoe just really kind of, I think, for me, are one of the most symbolic in the exhibition, in obvious terms of sculpture. To continue, we were lucky enough to have Natasha Marrow design a pair of shoes, especially for Shoes for Show. Natasha is an interesting designer as she only makes shoes as couture, commissioned pieces, and it's really amazing to have a pair of shoes that were realised especially for this exhibition. These shoes were designed by Nicholas Kirkwood for the Parisian department store Printemps, and he was commissioned along with other designers to make shoes for the character Alice in Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. I really love these shoes as they could actually never be made again. Nicholas collected all the pieces from antique markets, and so they really are one of a kind. They just look like they were supposed to belong on a mantelpiece, and I think in terms of this exhibition it really is those kind of shoes that are only one-offs and never going into production. They were just for this situation. Behind that is the Gareth Pugh boot, which has gained lots and lots of fame as it was featured in Beyoncé's Rule the World Girls video, but actually was commissioned for a fashion film Gareth Pugh made for Petit Imaginé in 2011. These boots were made by Terry de Havilland for Animatronic, who's member of the Scissor Sisters. She came to him and asked for a pair of shoes where the heel represented ice, and this is what he came up with. One of my favourite things about this shoe is you can see the shape of her calf in the boot, and I think that it's just, when you design a pair of shoes for someone, it's these imprints that really tell a story of who they were made for and who they belong to, and the shape of that just means that it only will fit her. We were lucky enough to have an interview within the exhibition with Terry de Havilland himself, and it's just really interesting talking about how he got to make that look like a piece of ice. It's actually so simple. He just left the insides of a heel and used clear perspex, and through trial and error it just worked. This section is about innovative design in footwear, and I really wanted to look towards the future whilst rooting it in the past. The first two shoes that you can see are designed by a really young British designer called Shonagh Marshall. She uses a process called rapid prototyping, which is rooted within technology. You can design a shoe and then it actually almost prints it 3D for you. I just find this fascinating, that technology is pushing design forward so much. And I also like her play with materials. One is made from wood and the other perspex, and you actually can't wear them. They're only made in singles. They really do become sculptural pieces of art that don't serve a purpose or a function at all and are all about design.